Hello and welcome along to the VMTV Rugby Pod. A little different this week. Mal and Al are hung out to dry or they're left alone. Ian McKinley comes in, a like for like but better replacement. Ian, we started last week 1, Ireland winning against England. We were on audio descriptive commentary. But as a test match, it was a good one, wasn't it, in Dublin?
Yeah, I mean, for the general supporter, whether you're an Irish fan, an English fan, it was a fantastic test match. And in terms of World Rugby pushing the message of the rugby's in a good space, that had everything in terms of the pace of the game, the accuracy, the physicality, good communication between the officials and everything like that. So I think the people that got to the game were really lucky to get a ticket. It really did have everything. And as you said, we were lucky enough to be commentating on it. And, particularly that second half, Ireland were just ruthless in their approach. There was no panic whatsoever, even going a few points behind it, going into half time. You never got the sense that Ireland once felt that they were hitting the panic button, as we said, and a really good advertisement for the game, advertisement for Six Nations, and what a cracking first game it was for both teams. Obviously, England disappointed with the end result, but I think they can take an awful lot of positives from that game.
I should have also said there is a special guest this week, one of Ian's pals, Sebastian Negri. He'll be on the pod shortly, ahead of Rome and tomorrow, where they take on Wales. Ian, just going back before Seb comes in, there was question marks in the autumn about the Irish attack. It wasn't quite there. Had they sort of peaked? But they looked to be back, hitting a few notes, didn't they? Particularly when Jack Crowley came on. But Sam also, yes, he had an iffy start, but he did all right as well, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, it was the big talking point before the game. Who's going to be starting 10? Is it going to be Sam Prendergast? He had a fantastic run with Leinster since that last game against Australia. Jack probably a little bit up and down, and that's probably gone toe-to-toe with Munster's form. But my goodness, did he put in a performance when he came off the bench. And, that's what you want. You want, two high-quality players vying for the position and trying to push each other. And, I think Jack Crowley deserves a huge amount of praise. And it just makes, the selection now for this weekend so intriguing. What way is it going to go? Are they going to keep, they're going to back Sam again to go again? Because it wasn't as if, we had a poor game. I think we're still forgetting, how young he is.
First game in the Six Nations,
Yeah, and even the
he
confidence,
must have been
whether
plenty of nerves and excitement as well.
You almost try to think, when I was 21, what was I doing? And wasn't close to the international first team scene with the Six Nations. So to sort of bring yourself back to the reality of that, his development is so far ahead, and the confidence even to go for, whether it was a pre-call or not, the little chip, one of the first plays into the game, it didn't come off. And I know, skeptics would go, well, against a better team, you're going to get punished a lot more with things like that. But I think that's what the Irish coaches like, is that any sort of mistake, it doesn't seem to faze him. He just gets on with it. But I tell you, Jack Crowley deserves a huge amount of credit, because it mustn't have been easy, particularly that the game against Australia not being picked, and then the first one into the Six Nations. I think he played every minute of last year's Six Nations. So to go from that to a bench berth, it can be a tough place to be, because you're trying to feel the rhythm of the game from the sideline. You're trying to see maybe some opportunities if you do get on. And boy, he took the opportunity. Huge amount of courage in that performance. And it's just a good thing for Ireland going forward. But you were talking about the attacks too, and there was question marks. There was question marks about the line out as well. There was a 100% success rate. I think,
highest ever, or something like that in the Six Nations.
And it is what Ireland, whether it is still from maybe the Joe Schmidt era, Ireland do. They base a lot of their attack off set plays and set piece, and line out is an integral part of that. Now you've got the goal line dropout as well as that. You saw a little snippet with James Lowe making a wonderful little break to put Tyburn in, and that was maybe a little snippet from what had been done in the 2 tests down in South Africa. It was sort of similar sort of movement, just with different players, and it's those little pieces and micro details that make such a massive difference. But there were massive performances all around the field, and even Dan Sheehan coming on. I mean, you could name so many, but what an impact certainly from him and Crowley when they came on in the second half. And I'll throw in Jack Conan as well. Fantastic.
It's an interesting one staying on the 10s. You know, we had Humphreys, we had O'Gara, then we had Sexton, and we had a couple of guys that tried to take Johnny's jersey. Didn't quite happen. But this is we're not used to this as Irish public and fans, where 2 10s are vying for one spot. So that's I suppose we're all waiting, you know, should we chop, should we change? It's actually a real benefit, isn't it?
Oh, well, I think so. And I think maybe the difference from your Humphreys, O'Gara, Sexton is that there was a much bigger age gap, and you know, guys were at different stages in their careers. You know, these two, you know, there's only a few years between them, and they're still so young at test level. And Jack has obviously got a few more caps, and has got a lot more exposure. But I'm sure, waiting to be proven wrong. But I just think this will only be a good thing. And again, you can argue that if you've 2 different style 10s, it might hamper how a team preps, or it might take another a little bit to you know, centre to get used to a timing off a 10 or a 9. How much does a 10 run onto the ball off a scrum, for example, or something like that? But I think that you know, that they play with each other so much, and they will be playing with each other so much, that the players will get used to it. So ultimately, I think it's just it's a good thing. Ireland are very fortunate to be in the situation that they are.
It all kicked off on Friday night. France beating Wales 43-0. Dupont back to the fore. Just keeps getting better. It's a bit of a joke. And then Scotland beating your old boys. As much as you don't want to talk about it, we will. But just in those 2 games...
I've no problem. I suppose kicking off, I mean, like, we're running out of airtime, and I know even guys in studio...
How do you keep getting better? Like, how does that even happen? He's now running backwards. I know he's done it for a while. It used to be sideways. Now it's backwards from the base, and still creating some magic.
I mean, the highlight reels are just going to be endless. But it's not only that. If you watch a whole game, if you watch every game, even some of the mundane things, the basic things are just done to such an elite level. He just doesn't have any weaknesses. Like, this is just, you're trying to, you know, I'd imagine if you're you know, one of the international teams trying to pick out something, you know, defect, where do you start? And it's a joy to watch him every single time. I mean, I cannot recall him having a bad game. I mean, even watching he had a couple of little errors against Wales, where, you know, he fumbled the ball at the base of the rock, but that's it. Like, you were really nitpicking at everything, and it just seems when he wants to, he's able to find a gap. He's able to ping those kicks, which are, you know, the crossfield kicks, which are not easy. You know, he's on the run, and they're just dropping into the bread basket so easily. So it's a daunting prospect for anyone that has to oppose him. So I suppose if you're Denison Gibson Park, you don't know what else to do, because you know, he took at the weekend. Like, he is a fantastic, world-class half, but you're always going to have Dupont ahead of you, and it's I can imagine it's a tough one to take. But France seems to be rolling in a good way. And, you know, the flip side of that, Wales, I mean, they have a mammoth task against you.
Well, just before you get in there, I think we have your old amigo.
Oh dear!
We do.
Oh no!
Do. He doesn't even know you're here either. He thought it was going to be a plane call. Sebastian Negri, Italian back row.
What have I stumbled into? Yeah.
I might just hit the exit button here, Stu.
I can't believe
I feel so out of place. The 2 best friends and me in the middle.
You haven't even had your haircut, McKinley.
Oh, that's what happens when you have 2 kids. No time to do anything apart from rugby podcasts.
Seb, firstly, how are we? Great to have you back on the pod.
great to be back. Good to see you guys. McKinley, always a pleasure. No, all good. Been a tough week. Preparing for a big game against Wales.
Tell us this, going into last week, Edinburgh, expectation actually for the first time. You've been around since 2016. Was it a different feeling going into the Six Nations in the Italian back row and the team?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a different feeling because, I think where the team's at the moment, there's a bit of an expectation, and we as players have got to embrace that. But at the same time, we can't get carried away. We knew that last week against Scotland was going to be tough, especially at Murrayfield. The message going into this week was don't underestimate Wales, and we know that the Welsh team are extremely dangerous when their backs are up against the wall. So we're expecting a tough game this week, and looking forward to it.
14-0 down, and then you get it back to 19-0. What were your thoughts when it was 19-0? Were you like, we've got this, boys?
I think the message, even when we went down 14-0, I think the message was just stay in the game. I think Tommy Allen kicked really well and kept us in the game. And then that just builds a little bit more confidence when you're getting a little bit of reward. And then when it gets to 19-0, I think we've given so much, physically to that game. We just had, one or two lapses in concentration, and at that level you get punished. So definitely some positives to take from the game. I thought we defended our hearts out, but we didn't really get our attack going, and we struggled to exit at times. So lots to work on, but definitely the fight and the way we continue to stay in the game was awesome.
Ian, you've played in this Italian team a good few years ago now, but what's the biggest difference you see compared to even a couple of years ago now?
Yeah, that this team wins games is probably the biggest one. There's a new crop of players that have come through, and they're probably at the sort of their year 3, year 4 of their international development. And Seb is now part of that group that is probably in charge of bringing those younger guys through, and leading by example and all that. So this game at the weekend is massive. Wales are saying it's the most important game in their whole Six Nations the last 25 years. So that with it brings a huge amount of pressure. But there's Seb, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not involved in the camp anymore, and you're only reading between the lines or certain things. But there's a huge amount of expectation on the Italian team to back up what was achieved last year. Two wins and a draw last year should have probably been 3 wins. That game against France, and this is probably going to be a tougher Six Nations than it was last year. You've got a bit more expectation. So I don't know if that's correct or not, but
I think Ian's right there. In terms of now the group's got an expectation, and we can't shy away from that. We've proved over the last 12 to 18 months that we're improving as a team, and I think this is our cycle, this is our time. I don't think we can use it as an excuse anymore that we're a young team. Obviously, on paper it probably looks like that, but we've got a lot of experience within the group now. Guys that won 10 caps on 2030. I think the time is now, and we've got to embrace that. I think, going into last week, there was talk about maybe getting a result in Scotland, and then obviously this week, another expectation, and we can't shy away from that as players. But at the same time, we've got to focus on our performance, and I think if we get our performance right, the result takes care of itself. So that's been the big focus this week.
There's also a few guys on 60 caps like yourself, Ferrari, Roots, Tommy Allen, above 80. Not that you're old, Seb, but does that help as well? You're only 30, but just to have a lot. I know you haven't won many games in the Six Nations. It was talked about last year. It was first time in 7 years. But surely the expense or the experience you all have really is a benefit to you all.
Yeah, for sure. I think Ian touched on it. That we're a shoulder to lean on for a lot of the young guys coming through, and we've been there when it's been the lowest of the lows, and we've been through really tough cycles. So I think with that experience, you take that as a positive moving forward, and you learn from that. So like I said, you give advice to the youngsters and things like that, and be a shoulder to lean on and lead the boys forward. But at the same time, everybody's got an expectation here to perform, and we want to do that again this weekend.
What's Gonzalo's message be like coming into this competition, but also for Wales?
Yeah, I think the message has been, to focus on our performance. I think we let ourselves down a little bit last week with the way we attacked and held on to the ball. I think the breakdown was a real area of concern, and that's something we've worked on this week. We've got to tidy that up. I think, Scotland are a little bit different, where, they work and focus on the choke tackle, and whereas Wales, they like to chop and jackal straight away. They've got some really big threats, especially in their back row. You look at their captain who loves to get on ball, and a lot of their forwards. So we've talked a lot about the breakdown, and then it's just important, that we kick in the right areas, and we have a little bit of calmness to our game when exiting. But at the same time, we want to get our attacking game going, and we didn't do that last week. So it's been a good week of training. But like I said, we know what's coming. Wales have their back against the walls, and I think that's been their most dangerous. And you look at the team that they've picked, there's still a lot of quality in that team. So it would be very foolish to underestimate them.
Ian, is it the attack that's key for Italy this weekend?
I think it's a mixture of things, and I think it's going to be about which team controls maybe the pressure of the game, because this is a high pressure game, and yes, it's probably
great.
It's at the other end.
You can answer these questions, Seb can't. He has to sit
exactly.
defense. It's brilliant.
Yeah, like you're seeing me in my true light now, Sue.
No, your light's not very good, mate.
I know. It's to cover the wonky eye.
Stop.
No, but like obviously the game is, you've got two teams that are fighting towards the bottom end, rather than France or in Ireland. But with it, it still brings a huge amount of pressure, and if Italy can keep backing up, wins against Wales, that just will always push the narrative in the right way, that Italian rugby is still going in the correct way. And it's so deeply frustrating to watch that Scotland game, because I don't want to dwell on it too much, but even at the end, there was a chance to get that try, and you're looking into the last couple of minutes, 5 or 6 points, can Italy push for another one? It's all ifs and buts. The sport is pretty ruthless. You gotta get over the line. You gotta get it done. But what I'm really hoping for, there's going to be several knows, a full stadium whenever the Stadio Olimpico is full. It brings with it its own energy, and it's up to the guys wearing the blue jerseys to bring that energy, to keep the crowd involved. And like, I'm praying and hoping that it's going to be an Azzurri win.
Seb, you beat them last year, but the last time you beat them in Rome was 2007. What were you up to that day?
I have no idea. I genuinely don't know. But I think
why not?
Ian's right. I don't know.
That's what playing in the back row does to you.
Exactly. I have no idea. Taking too many knocks to remember. But what I would say, I think Ian's right. It's going to be a high pressure environment, and I think the start is really crucial. And also, we haven't really touched on it, but I think the discipline is massive. I think Wales have a really good set piece. They score a lot of tries from ball, so we can't give them easy outs. But I think that first 10 to 15 minutes is going to be really important. And we're expecting them to come firing on all cylinders. We've got to match that and focus on really performing and hitting our straps.
Before we let you go, no one will answer this, but I always say, what's a success for you guys? And every player's like, one game at a time. Yeah, very good, Stu. But what is success in this championship for you, Seb?
I think it's chasing consistency and getting victories. We went into that Scotland game, ambitious, confident, and we wanted to win, just like every game that we'll play. I do feel that we have an ambitious group now. It's easy to focus on all the negatives, but this group is positive, and we really believe in what we're doing, and we got a massive opportunity, this weekend to get the win and just to keep building that consistency and confidence.
Is that the biggest change you've seen in the last couple of years? Before, you obviously go into every game to win, but now there's full belief in that.
Yeah, for sure. I think over the last probably. Since I've been a part of this Italian team, we've always been the underdog. I think that's slightly starting to change a little bit.
No, it definitely is.
People have
favourites.
People have. I think the big thing for us too is, it started with Kieran, and then after that too, and with Gonzalo as well as that. We still want to chase that respect and credibility. But I think we got that now, and now it's about chasing that consistency and becoming a team that performs week in, week out, and doesn't have one great result, but then go on a streak of not performing or not getting results. And at the end of the day, it's a result of business. So we know full well.
Ian, do you miss him?
No, not at all. Not for 1 second. I see him more on Netflix with that full contact thing. So I feel like I get to know him more through that. So.
Do you know, me and Ian have been friends for a long time. He hasn't given me any feedback on that Netflix thing, but his wife Cordelia messaged me the other day to say well done. So
serious jealousy, McKinley.
Do you know how much
fees he's getting for that?
No comment whatsoever.
Final word to you, Ian. Obviously you wish them luck and stuff, but do you obviously believe this Italians team is good enough to win this game, but also win a couple of games in this championship? Is that too much?
No, I mean, listen, it's building on from the Six Nations last year. So why not? 1-2, drew one last year. Why can't that be the same this year? Obviously, there was an opportunity in that Scotland game. It's obviously always more difficult if you don't get something in that first round. But I think if Italy are able to get a win this weekend, that it just makes everything so much easier. So I think if you can back up this year with 2, I think that would be all of Six Nations.
Seb, thanks so much. Enjoy Saturday in Rome and all the best.
Thanks so much.
My heart's for Italy, sure, it always is.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Chat to you next year.
100%. McKinley, speak to you soon. Ciao.
Ciao.
Am I allowed to say ciao? Obviously not.
You can say ciao. Absolutely. You can get away with it.
He's in good spirits there, isn't he?
Yeah, I suppose people that don't know Seb, he's a bubbly character, and guys gravitate towards him, and both on and that he's a real team leader within that, and he's been around for a long time. I remember when I was sort of getting through the professional ranks over. He was just a young pup, and he's still pretty much the same, hasn't changed. Maybe just a few grey hairs more. But
I always think he's 34, 35, but he's only 30.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with his stature or his physiques, just because he's been around so long.
Yeah, and as you said there, he's racking up the caps. I think you obviously want a few more victories than what you have. I think even when you look at Sergio Parise, all the games that he played over his stellar career, you always want more victories than what you got. So I think that's going to be a big thing whenever you're age 30 now. Is to push on these younger guys who are 23, 24 now to make sure that it's not normal to lose games or lose games badly. And that's, I think, the whole credibility and respectability that Seb was talking about.
We've sort of bigged up this test match, and it is a blockbuster in different ways. Because Wales are on their worst run ever. Yeah. And then Italy have expectation. So both teams, whoever loses, the only fair result's a draw.
Oh, hopefully not.
No, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, listen,
where do Wales go if they lose this weekend?
there's going to be question marks about Warren Gatland going forward, and how much can he, how much more can he actually get out of the team? And I think that they've got the teams going up there as we're seeing. But
back in at 8.
Yeah, and he is world class, a world class player, and to have him back. So when I was maybe mentioning a little bit just about the high pressure scenario, pressure can make you do funny things, and if you've got Faletau there at 8, a guy with experience, has maybe something to prove, because he's coming towards the end of his career, but still a world class player. You need those people in those key positions to be able to make critical decisions. So I really do believe it will be the team that can manage those expectations, can manage maybe the downfall if that does happen, manage the good moments, the bad moments in the game that will come through. Because certainly when you talk about Wales, you do not, even watching the game against France, you do not question heart whenever anyone puts on an international jersey. You don't question that in any regard, and that is exactly the same for the Welsh players. There's just a lack of quality at the moment, and certainly if you Faletau in there, it will help things a little bit more. But no, I'm convinced that if Italy can get things right, and they were close to getting things right against Scotland, I think they still will be too strong for Wales.
Okay, that's the first prediction. We must move on to the Saturday afternoon, or later afternoon fixture, I should say. Le Crunch, that's why I'm looking at my phone, because at Twickenham it's England against France, and the teams have just been announced. I'm going to look at the English team here, Ian. Marcus Smith at fullback, there it is there, and Finn Smith at 10. Elliot Daly's back on the bench in 23 there. Harry Randall alongside him. What is that, your immediate thoughts? I know it was broken this week, the way it's going to go. Do you like that as a coach, or would you prefer Marcus Smith still to be at 10?
I rate Finn Smith extremely high. I think he's a really good player. I don't like the combination of Marcus Smith being a 50. I don't.
It's funny because that's been trialled for a while now, Ian. Australia.
Yeah.
And also Quinn's a wee bit, not as much. Obviously, he's the main man, the focal point, but he has played 15. So some coach along the line sees it, like someone sees it in the training paddock, whether it's at Southwest London at Quinn's during the week or at Pennyhill Park at England. Someone is like, this is still a runner.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to be proven wrong. But whenever I've seen it, it hasn't convinced me at all. So, whenever I heard, I think
and there's plenty,
yesterday,
by the way, there's plenty of pundits that agree with you.
Yeah, there was yesterday, 2 days ago, that this was going to happen. And when I read that might happen, I was really surprised, because I thought England's attack was good. It was the first time in a long time that I felt that the things were sharp, and they had different variations of play, and they had the passing threats, running threats, kicking threats, a lot more. It was just that period, the 20-minute period in the second half, that Ireland just completely blitzed England away. But there was a lot more positivity around England's attack that I'm surprised at that change. And I, as gifted as Marcus Smith is, which I think he is, for me he's more of a natural 10 than he is a 15. I think if you maybe try and force something like this, it might not. It could even be like the England football scenario years ago. We had Lampard and Gerrard, and playing together, and it didn't work. So. I felt that Borthwick was going with Smith and sticking with it, but he's obviously had a change of heart. And I would feel sorry for Freddie Stewart. I think he's a fantastic player at fullback that gives assurances and certainty there. So I think he can feel a little bit hard done by.
And then Caden Murley, but he's injured. We don't actually know what injuries are quite there and what's actually happened, but that's the way they're going.
Yeah, of course.
France. Just how many tries was it? Over 40 points against Wales. 6, 7, whatever it was. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Jalabert at 10, obviously, because Intermac is suspended, and he's had his run-ins with Galtier. Wasn't picked in the squad in the autumn, or was, and said he'll only do it if he starts. Cleared off, and now he's back in. I remember when he first made his debut against Ireland. When was that? 2018. As a youngster, he's in that Bordeaux backline. He kicked on, but never really hit the heights at international level. But obviously, Intermac's ahead of him. Do you like him as a player, Ian?
Yeah, I like him an awful lot, and it's a bit similar to the Finn Russell Gregor Townsend situation you feel a few years ago. But it's full of quality. That French team, especially when you've got Marchand, the sort of the bench, you've just it's oozing class, and it just goes to show like Ireland and France are just head and shoulders above the other teams at the moment.
Do you think there is a big gulf in? You say head and shoulders. Like, is it 5 to 10 points? Yeah, do you believe that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Scotland have been hampered. I think 2 below 2 not being there is a massive blow, as big a blow as if Doris was not there for Ireland, or even Itoje whenever he's on form, and I think he found form. That last weekend was one of the best games I've seen him play internationally in a while. I thought he was outstanding, and if he continues that form, I mean, search for a Lions starting berth. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a titanic battle. I think, wasn't it, a couple of years ago? France steamrolled England, put 50 points on them. I can't imagine that, but I think it's France in the driving seat, but just about.
You talked about Gatland being under pressure. I think Borthwick is as well.
I suppose every international coach is under pressure. I mean, it wasn't so long ago. I remember, was it one of the games in the studio? It was a make or break. Andy Farrell, Ireland against
England. I think, yeah.
Keith Earls getting the try line out over the top, Cohen passed it inside, and there was talk that if Ireland don't win this, or there's nothing been shown, there could be a change. So you're always on a knife edge. You can never sit easy, but of course there's huge pressure on Borthwick. There's been huge pressure, I think, even since the whole Felix Jones fallout, and actually what that has entailed. There's been a bit of a fallout of who he's brought in, and discussions about the work environment. But if you're to go from what you see on the pitch, like England looked a lot more of a complete team and a dangerous team playing Ireland. Obviously, the result didn't go well. So it's a good opportunity for them to confirm maybe a forward pass, of positivity that they've done, that they can cement that with the win. But I would just imagine France would just pip it.
Yeah, I was going to say just pip it. If England played like they did for the first 40 for the full 80, they did against Ireland, against France at Twickenham, is that enough for them? No.
You'd probably have to go a little bit more, but there wouldn't be.
So they need to be their best performance. Need to be better than the one where they beat Ireland at Twickenham. Yeah.
You're only talking about a few things here, Stu. The small fine margins that everyone talks about at international rugby. But if they're able to have a consistent performance, maybe like the 40 minutes, they're certainly in with a massive shout. There was just obviously, I won't say a blackout, but Ireland in that 20-minute period were just simply fantastic and blew England away. So, which the French team could do, as well. They've got the players to be able to do it. They both have a structured game that they're able to run over you and through you, but yet in broken field they can destroy you if the game becomes a little bit disjointed. But England certainly can take it off from the last game, and if beating myself, but if they can replicate that 40 minutes, for 70 minutes, they're definitely within a shape.
And last but obviously not least, Edinburgh on Sunday, 3:00 kickoff. Ireland against Scotland. Hard to believe Ireland have won the last 10 games in a row against the Scots, but yet every time we're always like the Scots. Few surprises, and people still rate them. They definitely do.
Yeah, and I think reading up on a few things is you always respect any opposition that you're playing against. Scotland.
Oh, you've stopped playing. Stop answering like that. Come on.
You're coming in heavy today, Stu. Whether it's because we work,
belly front.
whether it's because we work together at the weekend, I don't know. We feel like we're more in the friend zone. I don't know.
You're slagging my weight. You're sly.
Oh, well, I suppose I'm always. I mean, you have to remember. I suppose. I mean, me playing at international rugby, playing with Italy, and more times than not losing. I mean, you always have to hone in on exactly what the opposition are really like and what they're doing in the sense that like Scotland, and you hear it throughout everyone, have really exceptional world-class players or close to being world-class players. And you throw in Finn Russell, you throw in Hugh Jones, if you give Van der Merwe space, you're only looking at a small dip in performance to be caught out. And that's the beauty of international rugby, a 2-3% dip in concentration and accuracy, whatever it may be. Like we were talking, briefly about the line-out. The line-out was 100%, it was 23 out of 23. But if that dipped a little bit to a 15 out of 23, all of a sudden you cut out, 1/3 of potential opportunities to score. And Ireland don't get the same sort of momentum. Therefore, you have a different scoreline. So everything is linked within that regard. But the pressure will be more on Scotland to get a win against Ireland. You said the last 10, and I think reading some other things is about 14-15% win ratio against Ireland in the whole Six Nations. I think there's only 4 wins in total in the Six Nations, which is quite incredible when you think about it. So really, it is Scotland is Ireland's bogey team. Do I think Scotland will do it? There's always the potential, but I don't think so. I think this Irish team, what impressed me so much in that England game is that there was just a calmness in what they were doing, a bit different in the November games, maybe against New Zealand, that there was, whenever things were not going well, there was a bit more of panic stations, whereas this time it was nice and relaxed. Everyone sort of knew what they were doing and they trusted the processes and what they were doing. And they just seem to be in a really good place. And I think it'll take a titanic battle. And, you were just asking, do England need to up their performance by 5% to catch France out? I think Scotland need to up their performance by 20% to beat Ireland, because the performance they put in against Italy wasn't good enough by their standards.
The Irish bench added so much impetus against England. And that could be the difference again, couldn't it? Like, Conan was outstanding. He loves to impress in a Lions year, doesn't he? And Shane, which you touched about 7 months ago, ACL.
Yeah, who we've all talked about. But that's the modern game now,
10,
isn't it?
12, 15, you name it.
I mean, it's 23 players now, Stu, and more. It's the whole squad. And, if someone comes out from that bench... Say again?
Still hope for me yet.
Well, Queen's thirds, who knows?
Fives. Go ahead, sorry.
But it really is, it's a full squad game now, and everyone has to be on the same page. And if you get your opportunity, you have to be ready. But that would be a really pleasing aspect for the coaches. Like, it's always going to be disappointing if you're not starting or if you've been dropped for a particular game, but it's the reaction. Coaches will always look for the reaction in their players. I think that's why, just to highlight him again, like Crowley, with all the disappointment of maybe not starting, put the right foot forward, did everything correct. And Sheehan, after being out for 7 months, I mean, crazy to think he just had one game prior to that at club level and puts in a performance like that. So he's a bit of a freak of nature.
A final one on this. I know the teams are announced tomorrow, but do you think it'll be the same 15, the same benching, or do you think he'll tweak it slightly?
Oh, it's a good question, Stu, and I've been thinking long and hard over the last few days what Ireland are going to do. Are they going to go based on form? Are they going to go depending on the opposition? If you're picking on the form, are you going to go game to game? Are you going to chop it? I would be.
It's not great as a 10, that is it? You'd know more than anyone. Like, you won a couple of games back to back, do you not?
Yeah, well, I mean, to get your flow.
Maybe you don't get that luxury anymore.
you know, and you know what's an even better scenario is that if you're told that you're going to be playing the next couple of games, that no matter what happens, that gives you the confidence maybe that if you do make a few mistakes, you know, that you're not going to be dropped all of a sudden. So, I mean, if I'm to guess, I haven't been speaking to anyone, don't know any ins and outs, not in the camp or anything like that. I would say that they will probably potentially stick pretty much with the same team. Now, whether they've been rumoured that Jack Cohen to 6 or not, and Tom Ahern has been put in the squad, you know, doesn't going to change anything. But I think more or less it'll be pretty much the same.
Great stuff, Ian. I think we should touch on it before I let you go to do some coaching. Me and you were on audio descriptive commentary the first time ever in the Six Nations from a Virgin Media perspective, probably in Ireland as well. Not sure the facts and figures. How much did you enjoy it? And I certainly did. And such another showcasing of what you can do in sport should be there for everyone to be able to see, watch, listen and hear.
Yeah, 100%. So I suppose for people listening to this, yeah, it was a commentating tailored for visually impaired, blind and deaf listeners and viewers. So yeah, it was sort of our first time doing it, wasn't it? We worked together beforehand, but I think we found this very different to previous gigs that we've had. You have to be on the ball, you know, 100% of the time in the descriptive elements of the game. So what the stadium looks like, what's the pitch like, maybe if someone has a particular type of taping around the body, what type of boots. So all those sort of descriptive things that maybe some people take for granted, we try to portray that. So I would hope that people, the people that did tune in enjoyed it, and the IRFU and have a big inclusive policy, and this is just an extra part of this. So good on. I'm not just saying this because I'm on a Virgin Media podcast, but good on Virgin Media for piloting it, for trialing it, and we're gonna be doing the game. So fingers crossed, we'll see what happens after that. But it was certainly very enjoyable
and something very close to your heart. And we hope this can keep growing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, like I don't want to get into personal stories here or anything like that, but you fall into the visually impaired world by accident, but it certainly opens up your vision to a lot more or a lot different things. Excuse the puns, but and you do realise actually the amount of people on the island that suffer from similar issues. So if the game can be brought to those people and make it more accessible, then it's fantastic to be a part of it.
Super stuff, Ian. And your predictions for the weekend?
Has to be. You weren't listening earlier. You weren't listening.
I was, but I want, plenty of times the pundits change. I work with plenty that change in the 20-minute period. I want your three your three answers.
Change at half time. I think we'll go for an Italy win by about 5 points. England France, going to go France by maybe 5 as well, and then Scotland Ireland I'm going to put Ireland at 10.
Brilliant, Ian. Well, make sure you tune in on Saturday. We have the double header. It's Italy against Wales in Rome, and then France against England in Twickenham. Ian, thank you, and Seb as well. Chat to you soon.
Thank you.